Hey, y'all. Nicole Roberts Jones here. And those of you that are watching me on YouTube, let me confess, yes, I always get my dance on before I start these episodes. So shout out to my husband who actually created my theme song for the Meaningful Work podcast. So I'm always excited and blessed to be here with you to give you tools that you live a life full of meaning and fulfillment in your work and your life, which, work takes up 80% of our lives. So I need you to understand my greatest wish and my calling is to give you tools to live as the highest and best version of who God created you to be. So before I start this episode, first, let me give a shout out to Tracy in Maryland who sent in this question. Nicole, how do you balance it all? How do you find time to do all the things you want to do in your life? So let me tell you out of the gate, balance sets you up to fail. I said it. Work life balance is not possible. It sets you up to fail if you think you can do it. Now, how many of you have all the things to do list, all the things between work and your kids and maybe the committees you're on because of the organizations you're in? And I can go on, and you haven't quite figured out how to get it all done. Well, my goal in this two-part series is I'm going to share with you something I created when I was frustrated and tired and couldn't figure it out. When I was working not one, not two, but three jobs. I was teaching at two different universities and I had my business and I had just gotten married and my bonus kids were teenagers. I'm going to tell you I'm busier now than I was then, but I created a system that works for me. So, what I'm going to walk you through is work life balance hacks, a hack that does work. Because after I figured it out for me, I started teaching it to my clients, and the rest is history. And so, before I get into that, here's what I want you to get because I got to bring in some Bible. There's a Bible verse that says, make the best use of the time because the days are evil. Yep, the Bible says that making the best use of the time because the days are evil. That's Ephesians 5:16. But even if I look at the Bible verse before that, Ephesians 5:15 says, see then that you work circumvently, not as fools, but as wise. And if something's not working, listen, if you do something over and over and over again, and you keep doing the same thing and you expect a different result, yeah, isn't that called insanity? So I'm going to give you something that works. And before I do that, I had to look at this Bible verse in Tony Evans because, y'all know me if you've been here. By the way, tell me, is this your first time watching me in the comments? I forgot to say this. I love to read your comments, y'all. So don't just be looky-loos. As my grandmother would say, don't walk into this house and not speak. Well, you're in my virtual house today. Every time you're with me in one of these episodes. So tell me what's resonating with me. Say hello, do all the things so that I can see and hear and touch and feel you being with me as I pour into you. All right. So Ephesians 5:15 and 16. This is what it says in the Tony Evans Bible commentary that I love. It says, we must live not as unwise people, but as wise. How? By making the most of the time, by making the most of the time. And as I read that, you know what popped in my mind? Do you guys remember probably about 7, 8 years ago, as I'm recording this episode, when Maxine Waters had to reclaim her time? Those of you that don't remember, I'm going to play a quick clip from that moment when she reclaimed her time, and then we'll come back and I'll pour into you the hack that's going to make the difference.
To the letter that I sent May 23rd.
So, Ranking Member Waters, first of all, let me thank you for your service to California. Being a resident of California, I appreciate everything that you've done for the community there.
I don't want to take my time.
I also have appreciated the opportunity to meet with you
my time.
Several times
Reclaiming my time.
when we were doing our
Reclaiming my time.
The time belongs to the gentlelady from California.
I don't want to waste my time on me. I want to know about the May 23rd letter. You know about it? Why did you not respond to me and my colleagues?
I was going to answer that.
Just please go straight to the answer.
Mr. Chairman, I thought when you read the rules, you acknowledged that I shouldn't be interrupted and that I would have
reclaiming my time. What he failed to tell you was when you're on my time, I can reclaim it.
Hello. When you are on my time, I can reclaim it. Love it, right? So my goal is that I give you the tools so that you can reclaim your time, that you don't have to be overwhelmed. You don't have to figure out how to be all things to all people. And I'm going to warn you right now, you will need part one and part two. Part one, I'm going to walk you through a system I created. Now, listen, I read an article probably about 20 years ago by Ivan Meisner, who I'm going to call my silent mentor, who really gave me permission in that moment as I was reading his article to not want to uh, try to balance my time. See, work life balance says that we can take our life and have equal parts to all the things that are a part of our life. And that's just not real. Again, I said it a few minutes ago. If work is 80% of our lives, how do we take the other 20 and think we're going to have equal time for both? Not real. So I learned something in that article. He shared some pieces and I've added to it. And I now call what I have created, I call it equalizing your life. Now, listen, by the way, those of you that are listening in, you got to know anytime I come to teach, I'm always going to show slides. So come on over to the not Facebook, YouTube channel, which is nrjnetwork.com. So there you see on your screen an equalizer. Now, when I read this article, immediately this popped into my mind, and I don't know if this ever happens to you, but when I get in my car, this doesn't happen as much as it used to because now we have these cars that are easier adjusted. But back in the day, when I would get in my car, my husband loves his music full of bass, and I do not. And so I would always have to adjust the equalizer to make the music sound the way that was pleasing to me. And my husband did the same. And I realized we could live our lives if we were willing to reclaim our time and make the adjustments that work for us individually, not collectively, because what works for you is not going to work for me and vice versa. Mhm. And so let me make sure you understand the difference between balance and equalize before I walk you through what I call equalizing your life. Instead of work life balance, I call it equalizing your life based on that equalizer, right? So balance says this, it assumes you can spend equal amount of time in all areas of your life. I said that, but here's the difference with equalizer or equalizing your life. It's about finding the perfect blend that works for you. It's even unequal allocation of time that can lead to a feeling of completeness. Again, it's the uneven allocation of time. Because again, my husband might want more bass than I do. Doesn't mean the sound is less meaningful to him than it is for me. It's just what is pleasing to him. And so, in this two-part series, I'm going to walk you through the principles that I taught my clients. First of all, again, I said this a few minutes ago. I created it for me, and it began to work. Listen, it works so much so that I don't work on Fridays. I never feel tired or overwhelmed. I never feel like I have a whole lot of things that I didn't get done. And listen, I'm in three organizations. I'm on ahead of one committee in one. I'm on committees in the other two. Running a business, running a household. I can keep going on. Tons of things going on, but I never feel like I'm in overwhelm. Why? Because I've equalized my life. And so I want to invite you into a journey where I'm going to walk you through exactly what I did to equalize my life. And then listen, when it began to work for me, I had a client that asked, just like Tracy did, Nicole, how do you do all these things? And I showed her my system, and then I showed another one, and then a corporation called. And so, voila, I have a system that I'm going to walk you through, right? So, in order to equalize your life, and by the way, those of you that don't have a pen, you know I'm getting ready to go in. Okay. So, there are four principles you need to equalize your life. Four. Okay. They are the four ingredients that are a must. So in part one, I'm going to walk you through the four principles. And then part two, I'm going to walk you through the tools to implement how you equalize your life. Okay. So you need part one and part two. And by the way, I'm going to give you a little homework at the end of this part that I want you to complete so that it'll make part two even easier for you to implement. You ready? Now, let me just say this before I start. Those of you that are new to me, you need to understand I could care less if you're motivated or inspired in any of these episodes. If you don't implement anything, if your life doesn't shift, what's the point? If you're not growing and expanding who you are, what's the point of listening to these podcast episodes? So, with that, get your pen because I'm getting ready to go in, right? So, principle number one, principle number one for you to equalize your life is to be here now. What do I mean by that? Wherever you are, be there fully and completely, right? Now, to help you understand this, it makes me think of one of my clients. So I'm going to call her Kate for sake of not telling her business, as my mother would say, not putting her business in the street. So Kate, when she was working with me, she was the vice president of a department, not gonna say which one, of a large department store that you definitely still shop at. And she was coming to me because she was in overwhelm trying to do all the things and couldn't figure it out. So I walked her through this Equalize Your Life system. Now listen, on a Saturday morning, I get a call from Kate, and I think it's weird because my clients don't typically call me on Saturday, but I always have the bat line available if you're stressed or overwhelmed. And so I answered the phone, and she said, and I'm going to quote what she said. She said, "Nicole, against my better judgment, I listened to you and went to brunch with my girlfriends this morning." Now, I say against my better judgment because I know that I'm going out of town on a business trip tomorrow, which would be Sunday, y'all. And I haven't spent any time with my son. And I'm feeling guilty. I'm feeling guilty because I hadn't spent any time with my son. So I go to brunch, and the entire brunch, I'm thinking about the horrible mother that I'm being, the fact that I haven't spent time with my son, and I'm feeling bad. And listen, she wasn't fully present, y'all. She wasn't enjoying the mimosas. She wasn't enjoying the conversation. She was thinking about all the things that she had not done with her son. So much so that she couldn't wait till brunch was over to get in a car to call her son. So she gets in the car. She calls her husband really because she knew her husband would be picking her son up from a birthday party. And when her son gets on the phone, he's so excited. "Hi, mommy." And she goes, "Why are you so excited, baby?" And here's what he said back. He said, "Mommy, you got to hang out with your friends and I got to hang out with my friends. And now we get to hang out together." See, she was feeling guilty and her son wasn't even thinking about her. She messed up her whole morning thinking that she was being a horrible mom and that her son was going to be mad at her and that she need all the things that she needed to do that she hadn't done as a mom. And again, her son wasn't even thinking about her. How many times are you in one place thinking about another and you don't get to value the moment that you're in? Listen, they call today the present. This moment we're in is a present. So my encouragement to you is to be fully in your now. Listen, let me put this up here before I start going in because I'll start saying these things that are on the slide. You get to have a full life. You don't have to let anything go. You can enjoy wherever you're doing in the moment without guilt or stress. When things come up, write them down and you make room to do them later. So, what I mean by that, so like if I'm having dinner with my husband, which is one of my priorities every night, dinner with my husband, if I remember, oh, I forgot to send an email, I don't go and send the email and say I'll be right back, even though my office is right above my dining room. I don't do that. I write it down and I'm fully present. If I'm on a call with a client and I remember, oh, I forgot to buy my girlfriend, or I forgot to text my girlfriend happy birthday, or I forgot to buy something for one of my grandkids. And yes, I said grandkids. I can't believe I just said that out loud. But anyway, if I remember that, I don't stop it in that moment and do it. I write it down so I can be fully present. The other thing that messes many of us up is we think we're going to remember and you won't remember. But in order for you to be fully present, not feel guilty, not feel like that moment is taken away from you, write it down so you can do it later. So that's principle number one. Be here in this moment now, fully and completely. Principle number two, which goes with number one, is what story are you telling yourself? What story are you telling yourself? Listen, my client Kate was telling herself that she was not a good mom. And 9 times out of 10, that story that you're telling yourself makes you feel guilty, makes you feel like you're not good enough, makes you feel like all the things that are not true to who you are. To help you with this, I want to support you. So you're not beating yourself up. So you're not sitting in the moment thinking of all the things you're not, but you're able to be fully and completely in the place you're in without the story that's telling you that you shouldn't be here or that you're not a good enough mom or you should be at this other meeting or you need to work late or whatever that might be. See, all those things are what I will call a lie. See, what happens is somewhere in your lifetime, mine too, somebody said something to you, did something to you that made you believe a lie. So, my friend, as an executive who had never seen a mother as an executive, didn't have an example. So, that made her come up with a story of all the things that she should be as a mom. And somewhere we sign up for these shoulds that aren't even real. So, to support you with this, I want to walk you through an exercise, and this is dropped in my spirit, y'all. So listen, I'm gonna walk you through this exercise. That's gonna help you. Let me pull it up. It's called Expose the Lies. or expose the lies. Let me tell you why this story is powerful. And I learned this from my mentor years ago. It's powerful because, again, we walk through life and we don't realize that we have signed up for the lie instead of owning our truth. And that's what the lies are based on, a story that you're telling yourself. So, part one in this exercise is you do part one with a pencil. It's a 4-part exercise. Okay. This is called, again, expose the lies. Okay. Expose the lies. Part one, you do in pencil. And I want you to write down every lie. Write your first lie. I'm not smart enough. I'm telling you my lies out loud. Then skip 6 lines. I don't make enough money. Skip 6 lines. I'm not a good enough mom. Skip 6 lines. I'll never lose this extra weight. Skip 6 lines. I can't even say it. Right? And I want you to really sit with it because your lies become second nature. Your lies have been with you for so long. Listen, when I say I'm not good enough, that started in at 5 years old for me, when I wasn't black enough in my neighborhood. That seed got planted in that moment that then got watered and grew and grew and grew, kind of like Gremlins. Y'all remember that movie? Your lies grow. And then they have the nerve to sit in your, not just in your present, they sit in your future and they get bigger because you haven't done the work to dissipate them. So take your time with this first part. Don't rush through it. It might take you a couple of days because, again, your lies are like second nature. So what I would suggest is at least give yourself 48 hours and it not be over a weekend, that it be during a week. It needs to be time where you're at work, because sometimes your boss will call you into a meeting and maybe you don't speak up because you don't feel like, oh, I can't speak to that. Who said that? Who said you can't speak to that? Real quick story. I remember getting invited. A speaker of the state of California had created this program and it wasn't working. I'm going to tell the quick version of the story. I might tell the whole version in another episode. And I got invited with the who's who of LA, who's who of business, all the people I'd seen in newspapers. I'm like, oh my God, they're in this room. How did I get in here? So his chief of staff presents this whole idea, this whole concept that wasn't making money. And when he asked for recommendations, nobody said anything. And I had all these ideas and I said, okay, Nicole, this is your jam. You can see holes in programs. This is what you do, girl. Raise your hand. I had to talk to myself. I raised my hand and I started asking questions and making recommendations. Let me tell you something. The speaker took what I said, created and added to the program that then increased 85%. But I had to expose the lie in the middle of that room that was saying to myself, who am I to be in this room? And how dare I even think that I can actually help grow this program? But guess what I did? And I'm not sharing that to brag on me. I'm sharing it because you too sit in rooms that way and you don't speak up because a lie is present. So take your time with the lie. So that's part one. Part two. So again, part one's in pencil, y'all. Part two is go back with the pen and write the truth about every lie. When I say I'm not smart enough, I say I'm perfectly capable. I am phenomenal at developing programs. I am great at career development coaching and helping people see how to align their gifts with their career, their role. And then I can list all the times I've done it. When I say I'm not a good enough mom, and this is how I felt because I was a bonus mom, right? I then talk about all the things I've done with my bonus children that are in their 30s now, right? So you take your time, and the truth will be really hard for some of you because your lie has been so present for so long. Okay. And those of you that saying, I don't need to do this, that's a lie as well. That means you're in denial. Come on, somebody. Part three, after you've sat with it, you've done your lies, you've gone back and lies and pencil, truth and pen. Go back. Part three as erase your lies. So I had you write it in pencil. Now that all that's present is your truth. So part four, I want you to look in the mirror every morning when you wake up and say, I am. Listen, I remember going through a really bad breakup. Deputy director of a whole department had 15, 20 people that were under me. And I didn't have time to fall apart at work. I had to take myself in the bathroom and read my truth to myself, to remind myself of who I was, to not be exposed by the lie of what the decision he had made. Because I kept having to say, that is not God. God will not bless me with that mess. So this ain't God. So let me speak to the truth to pull myself into my power. Okay. So I can go on and on with that. But that I want to encourage you to do that. And I actually still do this exercise at least once a year. Why? Because the stories that you tell yourself will keep you stuck in yesterday when God has so much more for you. Listen, the enemy comes to steal, to kill, and to destroy. This is John 10:10. And then Jesus says, but I've come that you have life and have it more abundantly. The steal, kill, and destroy comes from those lies. That's one of the places he tries to steal, kill, and destroy in. Anyway, let me keep moving. So, step one, principle one is be here now. Principle number two is what story are you telling yourself? And it should really be identify the story you're telling yourself. Number three is set aside time to do what is important to you. And here's my spin on it. You got to be creative with how you manage it. I'm going to talk to you about how you manage it in part two, which is our next episode. But I want you to get this. There's no way that I can equally be present for my husband the same way I can be present for my kids, the same way I can be present for my business, and go on and on. But there's a way that can understand and define what's present and not present, what's most important for me, and equalize my days to be able to do all that needs to get done. And again, I'm going to walk you through that in part two. But now I need you to understand, what do you need? And I'm going to give you a little bit of it in a second. But let me walk you through number four real quick, which is find ways to incorporate peace of mind in your life. You know, when you're having a stressful moment, when you need that time away, when you just need to de-stress and unwind, what does that look like for you? Even if it's only 10 minutes. I know for me, when I need a little peace of mind, now I'll be honest with you, in my house, we moved to the DC area in 2021. In my house in Boston, I had a waterfall and we had a serenity room. And what I realized is I didn't spend as much time in that serenity room that I wanted. So what I did here is I created a separate studio from my office because my studio used to be in my office in my other house. I have a separate studio, which is where I am now, from my office. In my office, I have a little corner with a couch, a little ottoman I could put my feet up, and in that space, I know that hearing water, which is why I had a waterfall, is soothing for me. So if I just put on water music on Spotify, if I put on gospel music on Spotify, that gives me the peace of mind that I need. It also gives some good worship, some good power up moment. But incorporate peace of mind. The other ways I do that is we have a pool at this house, and one of the things my husband and I were both adamant about is we love water, so we got to be at a pool, and then in the winter we go to some beach vacation. And I do all those things because those things give me peace. It allows me to level set. So I want you to think about those four areas for you. Be here now. I want you to start to pay attention in your days in the coming week between now and episode number two. When you're not being present in your now, what story is keeping you from being present in your now? How you set aside time to do what's important to you. Maybe you don't even realize what's important to you because you're signed up for the shoulds and all the things that people tell you should do. And then find ways to incorporate peace of mind in your life. Take some time to notice how those things come up or don't come up in your life. Maybe they're hard for you. Do the expose your lies exercise. But here's the other thing. I got a bonus principle. You ready? No is a complete sentence. You don't have to explain yourself to anybody. You don't have to tell people why you're saying no. But here's the thing I've learned about that. And you've probably heard somebody say somewhere else, no is a complete sentence. But here's my friendly edit. Make them feel like you said yes, though. Make them feel like you said yes. So I remember I had a boss that was a hater. And I was doing what I'm doing now and never impeded on my daytime job. And literally every day at lunch, I had a coaching call with a client. How you gonna tell me how I can spend my lunch? I close my office door and have my lunch and coach my client. So I think my boss got word or figured out that I was coaching clients at lunch. And so he started making recommendations for us to meet at noon. I never said no. Here's how I would actually answer him. When he would say, can you meet at noon? I would give him a friendly edit. I can meet at 2. That's me saying no, but saying it in a way that makes it feel like a yes. You get that? Even when my husband and I both work from home now, but before COVID, when he wasn't working from home, and he would call me all the time like I was his personal assistant, asking me to go to the cleaners or asking me to run this errand. And I would never say no. I would give him a friendly edit. I can go tomorrow or I can go on Thursday. He go, oh, I need it today. Okay. That was me saying no. Can't do it today. So again, you've got to begin to look at how do these 5 areas show up, come up for you. Spend some time and do the work this over the next week before you watch episode number 2. Now, here's the you kind of your homework. Now, when I went to life coaching school, and I did go to life coaching school, I just listen, can I out myself for a second? I didn't get certified as a life coach because I realized I had a master's degree in social work, which superseded the stuff I was learning. I'm like, I learned this stuff times 20 in my master's degree program. So I didn't get licensed, but I did go through courses in my life coaching. It was an International Coaching Federation program, right? So one of the things I learned is something they call the wheel of life. Now, listen, if you're going to balance your life, it means that all these areas have to be well balanced. But what if they're not? So for your homework, here's what I want you to do. So I printed it out, y'all. I tried to draw it, but it looked horrible. So what I want you to do is really give yourself a will of life assessment. I'm going to walk you through how to do it. And this is your homework, okay? So the middle of the circle here, let's say that's 0. At the end of each section would be 10. So I want you to rate yourself from 0 to 10, how you feel about each area of your life. So I'm going to walk through this, okay? So let's say my business career, I feel like I'm at a 5. I'm going to draw a line here at 5. And by the way, the numbers are on the page for you. Finances, let's say I feel like I'm at a 3 because I want to make more money, right? My health, let's say I feel like I'm at a 7. You guys walking, see where I'm going? Family and friends, my relationships, let's say I feel like I'm at an 8. Let's say my romance, I feel like I'm at a 9. Personal growth, I feel like I'm at a, let's say 6. Fun recreation, which is me taking time off and doing things that I want to do outside of work. Let's say I feel like I'm at a 5. And physical environment, meaning where I live and the environment around me, let's say I feel like I'm at a 7. Okay. So you guys see? So if I connect each of these and these become my wheel, guys watching me connect them, those of you that are listening, you on a, you can't see me connecting my dots, right? Do you see? If this was my wheel of life, look at the wheel on the inside of there. If that was my wheel, can you imagine what my life would be rolling like? How bumpy it would be? Hmm. So take some time and don't try to say, oh, let me improve. Don't worry about that. We'll work through that in part 2. Take some time and really sit with this exercise. And by the way, this handout and the Expose Our Lies handout down in your show notes. Do both of these. Take some time and really sit with where you are. And part 2, I will walk you through the tools. I got you. Don't worry. I'm going to show you everything to do it, everything I just told you. But I need you to sit with it first. Where are you in the 4 plus 1, really 5 principles to equalize your life? Let me repeat them. Those of you that are saying, what are the 5 principles again? They are: be here now. What story are you telling yourself? Set aside time to do what is important to you. Do you do that? Do you feel guilty for doing that? Find ways to incorporate peace of mind in your life. Maybe you don't even know what peace of mind looks like. And then know as a complete sentence is our 5th bonus step. Spend some time sitting with all of those. Take some time and do your will of life, and let's look at where you are. And I'm going to give you the tools to implement how to equalize your life. I just gave you the principles. Now, next episode, I'm going to give you the tools, right? So as we end this conversation, I want to hear from you. I want to know how this has helped you. I want to know questions you have. I want to hear it all. So please take some time and write comments. Number 1. Number 2, share. The reason I'm going to always ask you to share is other people in your community need this insight. And the whole reason I'm doing it is to pour into you all the tools and strategy that I've been coaching people for the last 30 years. How old am I? So with that said, this is Nicole Roberts Jones, and I look forward to seeing you in part 2 of the work-life balance hack to equalize your life. I'll see you next time.